What's going on, guys and girls? It's GhostRobo, and welcome back to Evolve. Today we take our talents to the mines, the Broken Hill Mines, where we reprise our role as the rock giant himself. Behemoth is now hands down my favorite monster in the game. In fact, I think he's the best part of Evolve. I've said that before, but I am so super sure that he is the coolest monster. I just love playing as him, and that is what we're going to do. Also, big love to the 4 fans that helped make this video possible. J Figgy on Medic, Travster on Support, Pushing Jester on Trapper, and Finicky Book on Assault. Thank you guys for being a part of this and joining my party so that we were able to put some play into place. I'm going with my traditional rock wall lava bomb feel, and then I think I'm going to put cooldown reduction. I believe that's the perk I chose, but it's a pretty sweet round. It's very extended. This team was well coordinated and did a nice job, and it ends with, I won't spoil it, but like one of my favorite Behemoth moments of all time. You'll have to wait for that, but what you won't have to wait for is today's topic. We're going to veer from the traditional live commentary and go to something slightly different. I wanted to talk about open world games and sort of their devouring of the current game industry. This game, Evolve, you guys as fans of Evolve, it fits perfectly because Evolve is a game, almost a hybrid type game that sits between the very strictly linear experiences and the very open and sandboxy experiences. This game has a prescribed format, a prescribed set of gameplay rules and whatnot, and then the players can add variety based on their tactics, based on their teamwork, and based on how they utilize what is provided for them. Open world games in the vein of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, GTA, Watch Dogs, Infamous, they are much more, sure they have missions and whatnot, but a lot of their success rides on you creating your own fun. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have The Last of Us, BioShock, Half-Life, Call of Duty, games that are very, at least in their single-player components, very grounded, very predetermined, very set-piece heavy, and the developers have laid out what they want you to get from that experience. Now, the reason I bring this up is because Ubisoft had a big conference call recently, they, the makers of AC, Watch Dogs, Far Cry, talking about how we have seen a doubling of the amount of open world games from 2008 to 2014. In fact, in 2014, 30% of the games released were open world, and by their estimation, 5 of the 10 best games of last year were open world games, and that's a huge growth. A lot of that can be attributed to the more powerful consoles, right? PlayStation 4, Xbox One, by having hardware capable of these vast landscapes, these gigantic environments. Sure, you encourage more development of big worlds, but in general, we're seeing a changing of the guard. The single-player, story-driven, linear experience does not seem to be as popular nor definitely prevalent as it was in the past. And if I look back, some of my favorite games of all time are, most of my favorite games of all time, in fact, are of that variety, of the, hey, the developers laid forth this magical carpet and castle and invited me to come over and see what they had to say, rather than let me give you a tool set to do something awesome, and hopefully with your friends you can make that happen. And there's nothing wrong with either kind of game. I just think it's an interesting conversation to see where you guys fall in terms of, do you like more open world stuff or more linear stuff, because Evolve is such an amalgamation of the two, a mix of the two, its own thing, however you want to categorize it. It really borrows a little bit of both, kind of, sort of. Multiplayer only, does some different things, obviously, but I felt like you as fans of this game would have varying opinions on open world versus single player or linear, driven titles. And growing up, I was never one to really do a lot of the imagination stuff. I didn't crawl on top of my parents' car and pretend I was a villain from Spider-Man. I didn't run around with fake guns imagining I was in World War III. I very much like doing stuff: board games, video games, movies, sports, soaking as much fun as I could out of pre-made stuff, basically. And I think that, for me, a lot of today's game industry hype is about wish fulfillment and fantasy fulfillment and becoming a role, right? Like being an assassin. How cool would it be to be this killer stealth guy in an ancient, awesome city? How cool would it be to be a psycho, crazy murderer in, a pseudo-California? How cool would it be to be, a hero who uncovers all these superpowers and then gets to terrorize or help the world around him? How cool would it be to be a detective in slightly futuristic Chicago? How cool would it be to embody a role, and then what does that entail? Rather than having a character set in front of you and you get to then empathize and play as that character. So The Last of Us, right, just as the most prominent recent example, that's a game where they obviously, hey, Joel and Ellie are set characters, yet we still feel like we're immersed. Because just because you have preset people, just because you're not designing a character, just because you're not naming it, you know, Crazy Genie 38, doesn't mean that it loses any of its immersion potential. In fact, I would definitely counter that there is more immersion when granted a beautiful plot. These guys are tracking me fast. They did a really nice job at coordinating. I heard them in the lobby pre-game, like, planning out who was going to do what. Big shout out to these guys for giving me one of my favorite matches in recent memory. But, you know, there is still so much, I feel, so much potential in games that focus on spectacle, set piece, storyline, and that find the authors of the game, the designers of the game, willing to set forth their vision and trust that it will be fun for the players. Obviously, mobile gaming, social gaming, online gaming, YouTube gaming have dramatically affected the way that games are formulated and which ones are successful. It's a lot more fun to run around with your friend in Destiny, in theory, than it is to solidarily play The Last of Us or whatnot. I would counter, though, that those games are the better games. I'm not saying they're more fun, and I'm not saying that you can't have an amazing time with something open, but I really feel that our industry loses a little bit of its artistry when majority of the games begin to focus on player involvement, because we're not game designers. We're not the people who can make the best stuff happen. Sure, we can make cool moments happen. There's nothing quite like, you know, jumping out of a jet in Grand Theft Auto or some of these more, you know, friend-driven, socially, organically cultivated video game memories. But still, my favorite ones are those that were laid out and the ones that were predestined to happen. I feel like that is where you can really get the most artistic prowess, is when something, you know, has been carefully crafted for you to experience and for you to, you know, see how you feel and react. And that's why I like characters with voices over characters without. I like characters that have personality and that's given to me, rather than me try to, you know, place that upon some generated character. That Tyrant underneath there has health regen, and I'm currently rocking armor regen, and since my health isn't that low, I didn't want to eat it, but it's going to come back to kind of haunt me in a little bit. So keep an eye on that Tyrant and where we are in this dome here as I try to spit fire on the medic. They're doing a really nice job of using Sunny's shield generator in conjunction with her jetpack booster to keep everybody alive. I don't believe we have any strikes at this point, and we are taking some pretty brutal damage. But where do you guys fall? What do you think? Are you huge fans of the open world stuff? Maybe you're multiplayer only gamers. Maybe you grab Call of Duty and go online and grab Battlefield and Evolve and that's it. But I'm curious to know, out of this audience, those of you that still love Evolve, you know, 3 months after launch, where does your gaming allegiance lie in terms of linear single player, crafted stuff versus open world? And there obviously are missions and plot points and characters that obviously are very obviously handcrafted and well made in open world games, but the focus isn't the same, right? It's not, it doesn't bear the same structure, and the ideology or maybe the purpose of the game is a little bit different. And to me, the influx of survival games on Steam, the influx of indie games all over the place with you kind of shaping the world, has robbed us slightly of some of the beauty that we could get from, you know, more focus on linear story-driven stuff. And there are plenty of set pieces from games as beloved as The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, to as mediocrely received as Resistance 3, to Half-Life 2, to BioShock, the entire trilogy, to Last of Us, to Uncharted, that to me stand out in my memory more. Like, take Uncharted 2, the opening train climb scene of Uncharted 2 in the snow with a, you know, down on his luck and down on his health Nathan. That is a much more memorable moment to me than anything I've ever created in Grand Theft Auto 4, 5, Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, whatnot. To me, the best parts of those games are when they do dip indoors to give you a more, like a little like nugget, a little novella of storyline. That's what I really like about the Batman Arkham series, is I feel like they place a higher focus on more of those mini narratives filling out an open world, and it seems to be less about creating your own stuff than it is about them kind of dictating with some open flair. And I'm not saying you have to have just a hallway game. Like, I don't want that either, but I think as we see, you know, DayZ and H1Z1 and Subnautica and Rust and Reign of Kings and Minecraft and all these games that sort of take the take hold of our wallets and our game clocks. I assume that, you know, they factor those into open world as much as they factor in Assassin's Creed, Far Cry. Maybe that's an assumption I shouldn't be making, but I would guess that's a little bit of what they're talking about, you know, games, and if they're not, then I'm talking about that. Let's combine those two pools of titles, whether it's Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and GTA having a big booming world full of side missions and driving around, or it's Reign of Kings allowing you to create, you know, your own fortresses in an open world. Those are together. And as we prepare for Stage 3 here as Behemoth, you're going to see I walk back to the spot where I evolved Stage 2, and the Tyrant has dissolved. I thought that was pretty fast. He decomposed quite quickly. Unless the hunters shot his body so much. Is that a thing? I believe it's a thing. That you can decompose the wildlife at a quicker rate, at least. Either way, I was a little nervous at this point in the round because I was trying to find a safe spot to get to level 3. They have chunked off a decent amount of my health, and I wasn't able to recover any of it. I know I'll gain back a little bit by the evolution, but how much will they take away from me as I'm evolving? Where can I find that? Because they're doing a nice job. They're slowing me with Val. They're tracking me very well. And then Assault is bringing the heat. But I've got a pretty wide rock wall there, so we are going to be on the move and make our way towards open. Well, I thought this was the point we break free, but man, they just stay on me. And so I'm going to have to use my mobile move. It's so nice to be able to roll again. My gosh, like after doing that no-roll challenge, the fact that I could actually press A and move Behemoth around the map, excuse me, goodness, felt so good. And I really, I just love Behemoth. I think it gives me extreme hope for the 5th monster that, like we talked about, they will make him or her an environment model, like a monster that modifies the environment, and someone that uses really unique modes of travel to be diverse from Kraken, Wraith, Goliath, and now Behemoth, because I do think that they all feel like their own thing, but Behemoth feels like such his own thing. It's kind of crazy. Back to our discussion at hand. I love Assassin's Creed 2. That's one of my favorite games of all time. So there definitely is merit in what those games can provide, and I think when done well, they have just as much of a chance to be a 10 out of 10 as anything. Look at The Witcher 3, upcoming release very soon, or maybe it's out already, depending on when you're watching this. That game is getting 9s and 10s across the board, and that's a big open world game. But what they do well there, from what I've played and from what I've read, is they place an extreme focus on story, and they give you a character. So Geralt, the Witcher, is a very well thought out, well written, well voiced character with oodles of personality. And I'm not sure you can say the same of, like, you know, the Assassins since Ezio and Assassin's Creed, or of Aiden Pierce and Watch Dogs. I mean, people will argue that the Grand Theft Auto characters were very well done, and maybe they were. It's not really my cup of tea. But, you know, like, I think so much, we are so easily impressed with breadth, right, instead of depth. And I think that a lot of times in these games you end up with so much breadth and so little depth. And my favorite, even amongst the Arkham games, which I, you know, gave a round of applause to earlier for focusing somewhat on more of those indoor, you know, mini narratives and whatnot, and giving you a lot of characters to relate to, and kind of trying to keep Batman at the center of it all. I think Arkham Asylum was the best game in that series because it really committed to what it was trying to do. And that's not to say that those games aren't mechanically driven, because they are. Like, the mechanics of Batman Arkham Asylum, the fighting there, has gone on to shape the third-person action game for the entire generation and beyond. So it's not that, oh, like, I just want these very artsy-fartsy, story-driven games, but I think that when you give the player, when the developer has the opportunity to build what they see as awesome, you're going to gain a lot more potential for beautiful moments than you would have if you're just, like, running around being crazy with your friends. And maybe it's just a change in the time. Maybe I'm, like, old and washed up, and, like, my style of game that I love just isn't what most people love, and that's why I'm throwing it to you guys. And that's basically what I had to say on that. So now let's focus on the rest of this match. Let me know what you think of this format of kind of, like, you know, intermixing focus on the match with maybe some discussion topics. Anyways, here in the match, I was very worried because they got me down to half health, I have very little armor, and I need an evolution because this team is pretty good, and I was missing with some of the fissures. I feel like fissure sometimes just doesn't pop. I don't know. Sometimes I just... Rock wall was the one that before it didn't, and now I feel like half the time I hit fissure and it just doesn't even go. Anyways, they're on my tail, and I am going to pop a rock wall here to create a little bit of space. I'm going to go and aggravate this large Behemoth to hopefully give the hunters some trouble and buy me enough time to go level up. At this point, I will be putting all my points to max out the 3 skills I have rather than use tongue grab. I don't really want to get cute in this match. I would rather have maximum damage. And I thought about at the start, instead of putting ability cooldown, that maybe instead I would put extra damage, just because I kind of like having that little oomph of extra HP crushage. You know, even if it's 7%, like that's 7% quicker that you're going to down these guys, and the name of the game is getting strikes and finishing off the team. We'll evolve here and reach our maximum potential. They are on our case, but I don't know that it's all of them. The reason I went through that evolution is because they seem to split up a little bit, and so I believe that it is only one. I think soon you'll see here that it only is one of the hunters standing here and awkwardly trying to damage me. They've all come around now, but I'm able to pin with a really wide wall. That is post-patch Behemoth action for you right there, with the incredible half-circle nature of that wall allowed me to get it down on the Trapper, and this is my go moment. I don't have armor. I'm not going to regain health. The Tyrant is gone, so it's now or never, baby, and we're going to try to use all that we can. I'm going to sit on the Trapper because they are trying to revive. As long as I can keep my attacks to front, they're doing what they got to do, right? They are trying to keep Behemoth between team of the hunters, but I got the medic down, which is critical, and I know now Assault is going to try to come in for a revive. At this point, support is on his way, or her way, as Sunny out of here, right? And that is where everything becomes just a little bit of Mouse and Behemoth, right? Because the Mouse is on the run. I love that you can see the footprints here. We finish off the medic for sure. Don't want to take any second chances there. Put Val on the dropship. Now I'm looking at footprints, and it's off to the races, seeing if we can catch Sunny. And you're about to witness one of my favorite Behemoth moments of all time. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about open world games versus linear, and how that all kind of fits in with Evolve. Maybe multiplayer only is your favorite. Either way, check out this long-range lava bomb kill shot. That was glorious. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a fantastic day and a great week in general. I love you guys so much. Thanks for the support. Until next time, drink some hot chocolate. Go Behemoth, go. And we'll see you all later.
Yeah, we took a chunk out of his head.